Noong Marso 25, 2025, sa private financial planning meeting sa Forbes Park Mansion, si Jinkee Pacquiao, 46 years old, wife ni Manny Pacquiao at matriarch ng family who personally manages household finances at allowances para sa lahat ng children, accidentally left her personal ledger notebook open sa dining table kung saan nakita accidentally ni household staff na si Maria Santos, 38 years old, trusted housekeeper working for family approximately 12 years, ledger containing detailed monthly budget allocations including shocking revelation. Eman BACOSA receiving exactly 180,000 monthly allowance directly from Jinkee since integration into family noong 2023, while Jimuel Pacquiao, 24-year-old eldest legitimate son, receiving only P15,000 monthly, creating 12 times difference favoring half-brother over biological son, information that Maria couldn't keep to herself sharing with close friend who worked for entertainment blog. Story leaked March 27th, trigger. An explosive public scandal at devastating family crisis, revealing extent ng preferential treatment. Kumusta mga kaibigan? Before we dive into absolutely shocking revelation about allowance disparity sa Pacquiao family, Eman getting 180K monthly, while Jimuel only P15K, 12 times difference na walang logical explanation. Gusto kong malaman, taga saan kayo? Manila, Cebu, Davao, province, abroad? Comment your city below. Ano reaction ninyo sa disparity na ito? Fair ba or totally biased? Subscribe para sa more exclusive Pacquiao family updates. Eye on notifications. Like para tulungan algorithm. Share widely. This story reveals uncomfortable truths about favoritism, money, family dynamics. Let's start. Si Jinkee Pacquiao, born Janet Zamora on January 12, 1979 sa General Santos City, came from middle-class family. Father was small business owner. Mother was homemaker. Met Manny Pacquiao noong 1995 when she was 16 and Manny was 17. Both teenagers, but already dating seriously. Relationship survived Manny's rising boxing career through late 1990s, including periods of separation. Married May 10, 2000, when Jinkee was 21. At Manny was 21, already pregnant with first child Jinkee Eman, who would be born December 2001. Marriage produced 5 legitimate children over next decade. Jimuel, 2001. Mary, 2006. Queen Elizabeth, 2008. Israel, 2014. Youngest child whose name kept private, born 2018. Throughout marriage, Jinkee evolved from relatively simple provincial girl into sophisticated wealthy matriarch managing family fortune, estimated at hundreds of millions of pesos. Developed reputation as astute financial manager who controlled household budgets, approved major purchases, managed children's allowances at trust funds, essentially served as family CFO while Manny focused on boxing career then political career. Jinkee's approach to children's finances was reportedly strict. Despite family's massive wealth, philosophy was that excessive money would spoil children, making them entitled and unmotivated. Believed modest allowances would teach financial responsibility at work ethic. According to interviews over years, she emphasized wanting children to understand value of money, not just spend freely. This philosophy applied particularly to Jimuel as eldest, who received relatively modest monthly allowance through teenage years at early 20s, approximately 10,000 to 20,000 monthly. Enough for basic expenses, pero not extravagant by standards of billionaire family. Jimuel supplemented through his own endorsement income, pero base allowance from parents remained deliberately limited. When Eman BACOSA was publicly acknowledged noong 2023, after DNA testing confirmed Manny's paternity, integration into family was complicated, particularly for Jinkee, who had to balance accepting husband's son from outside relationship against natural protective instinct toward her biological children. Initial allowance arrangement for Eman was unclear publicly, pero assumption was that, if anything, he'd receive less than legitimate children, given circumstances. Pero reality, as would be revealed March 2025, was completely opposite. Eman was receiving 180,000 monthly directly from Jinkee starting approximately 6 months after acknowledgement around early 2024, amount that was 12 times what Jimuel received, staggering disparity that seemed to contradict Jinkee's stated philosophy about teaching children financial responsibility. March 25, 2025, approximately 2:00 p.m., Jinkee was conducting routine financial planning meeting with family accountant in dining room of Forbes Park Mansion, going through household budget ledger that contained detailed breakdown of monthly expenses including allowances allocated to each family member. Meeting lasted approximately 2 hours covering various financial matters. After accountant left around 4:00 p.m., Jinkee was called away urgently by phone call from daughter Princess about some personal matter. Left dining room quickly bringing her phone pero accidentally leaving ledger notebook open on table displaying page with allowance allocations clearly visible. Maria Santos, longtime trusted housekeeper who had been with family since approximately 2013 working approximately 12 years earning salary of approximately $25,000 monthly, was cleaning dining room around 4:30 p.m. as part of her routine duties, saw notebook open on table, initially intended to simply close it at put aside respectfully, pero couldn't help noticing as she reached for it, that page showed budget categories including monthly allowances children, with names at amounts listed, Natty. Pure human curiosity made her glance at details even though she knew this was private family information she shouldn't be reading. What she saw shocked her completely. Eman BACOSA, 180,000. Jimuel Pacquiao, P15,000. Other children listed with varying amounts, pero those two entries stood out dramatically. Because of massive 12-fold difference, Maria stared at numbers trying to make sense. Initially thought maybe she misread, maybe decimal point was wrong, pero no. Clearly written 180,000 for Eman at P15,000 for Jimuel. Couldn't be typo, because other children's amounts were written carefully in same handwriting. Princess listed at 25,000. Queenie at 20,000, younger children at smaller amounts. Pero Eman's 180,000 was by far highest amount, significantly more than anyone else, including Jimuel, who as eldest legitimate son would likely receive most or at least equal to others. Disparity was so extreme that Maria felt compelled to tell someone, not out of malice pero out of shock at unfairness. She had always liked Jimuel, having watched him grow up since age 12, knew he was good kid despite privileges. Felt this level of favoritism toward Eman was wrong. Maria had close friend named Lisa Cruz working as assistant to entertainment blogger Patricia Reyes, who ran popular celebrity gossip website called Showbiz Insider PH. With approximately 2 million monthly readers, Maria had occasionally shared minor household gossip with Lisa over years, nothing particularly damaging, mostly harmless celebrity sightings at daily life observations. Pero this information felt significantly more substantial. That evening, March 25th, around 7:00 p.m., Maria called Lisa She shared what she'd seen. Hindi ko maintindihan si Eman nakakakuha ng 180,000 monthly allowance from Madam Jinkee, pero si Jimuel na legitimate eldest son, only 15,000, 12 times difference. Bakit ganun? Lisa immediately recognized this as potentially explosive story. Asked Maria if she was absolutely certain about amounts. Maria confirmed she'd seen clearly written in Jinkee's own handwriting an official household ledger. Lisa said she needed to share with her boss Patricia, pero would keep Maria's identity confidential as source. Patricia Reyes received information evening of March 25th. Immediately began process of attempting to verify through additional sources before publishing. Contacted other household staff through her network of informants. Found one other staff member willing to confirm anonymously that they'd heard discussions about Eman receiving substantial monthly allowance larger than Jimuel's, though they didn't have exact figures. Circumstantial corroboration, pero not independent verification of specific amount. NTS Patricia decided to publish story March 27 afternoon, using careful language attributing to sources close to family, without revealing Maria as direct source. Headline read, exclusive. Jinkee Pacquiao's allowance shocker. Eman BACOSA gets $180K monthly, while Jimuel only P15K 12x difference. Article detailed the alleged disparity, raised questions about fairness at possible reasons for preferential treatment, noted that if true, this represented dramatic favoritism that contradicted Jinkee's public statements about teaching children financial responsibility. Story went viral immediately. Within hours had over 500,000 views, shared tens of thousands of times on social media, generated approximately 20,000 comments within first 24 hours, overwhelming majority expressing shock at disparity at criticism of Jinkee's judgment. Representative comments included, "How can mother give 12x more to stepson than biological son? Analogic nun. 180K is more than most Filipino families earn annually, yet si Jimuel gets only P15K. Insulting. This proves Eman is favorite. Actual numbers don't lie." Sentiment that quickly became dominant narrative. Pero notably, within hours of publication, official statement was released through Pacquiao family's publicist categorically denying story. Reports about allowance amounts are completely false and fabricated. Family does not discuss private financial matters publicly. We ask media to respect privacy. Denial that was standard PR response, pero didn't include specific refutation or amounts, making some readers suspicious that denial was technically true, that family doesn't discuss finances, pero not actually denying the amounts themselves were accurate. Jimuel Pacquiao himself initially stayed silent on social media for approximately 24 hours after story broke, pero March 28th evening posted Instagram story with cryptic message, "When you find out your value to family through entertainment blogs rather than direct communication," accompanied by screenshot of article headline, post that while not explicitly confirming story, strongly suggested accuracy given his emotional response, generated immediate additional wave of public sympathy or Jimuel portrayed as victim of unfair maternal favoritism. Within hours post was screenshot it shared across platforms, generating another several 100,000 engagements, forcing more direct family response that would reveal uncomfortable truths. Approximately March 29, 2025, roughly dalawang araw after story broke at approximately 36 hours after Jimuel's cryptic Instagram post suggesting story accuracy, Jinkee Pacquiao herself broke her usual social media silence to address controversy directly through long Facebook post attempting damage control, pero which inadvertently confirmed core elements of story while trying to provide justifying context. Post began, "I normally don't respond to rumors, pero given how much speculation exists, tears about family finances at given na my son Jimuel has been hurt by reports, I want to provide context." Acknowledging implicitly that reports had basis in reality at that Jimuel was indeed affected, suggesting amounts weren't completely fabricated. Post continued with attempted explanation. "Each of my children receives allowance appropriate to their circumstances and needs. Jimuel has received consistent monthly allowance since teenage years currently. 15,000 base amount, pero this is supplementary to his own substantial earnings from endorsements at other work, easily exceeding 200,000 monthly from his own efforts, so actual monthly available funds for him are far higher than base allowance suggests. He is financially independent young man who doesn't rely primarily on family support," framing that attempted to minimize appearance of inadequate support by emphasizing ng Jimuel's independent income, pero notably didn't deny the 15,000 figure, essentially confirming that specific amount was accurate. Then came more controversial part addressing Eman's situation. Eman's circumstances are different. He came into family as adult without having received any support during 30 years of childhood at youth. He is still building career and doesn't yet have established income streams comparable to Jimuel's. Therefore, his allowance being 180,000 monthly is designed to help him achieve financial stability and security that was denied to him for decades through no fault of his own. This is not favoritism, dis home, or rather fair compensation attempting to balance scales given massive historical disparity in support received. Justification that while having certain logic to it, essentially confirmed that yes, Eman was receiving 12 times more in monthly allowance than Jimuel. Confirmation that shocked many readers, even those who'd believed original report, because seeing it acknowledged officially by Jinkee herself made it undeniably real. Public reaction to Jinkee's explanation post was swift and overwhelmingly negative, despite her attempt to frame as fair compensation. Within 12 hours, post had generated over 100,000 comments, approximately 80% critical. Common themes in criticism included compensating for past 30 years by giving 12x more than your actual son, insane logic, Jimuel earned his own money through hard work, gets punished with lower allowance? Unfair. If goal is compensation, give Eman separate one-time payment, not ongoing monthly allowance higher than legitimate children. This is going to destroy family relationships. How can Jimuel not resent this? P180K monthly is P16 million yearly. That's massive amount to give someone just because feeling guilty. Where does it end? Sentiment reflecting widespread perception that regardless of intentions, the disparity was excessive and damaging. Even more damaging than negative public reaction was response from Jimuel himself, who clearly felt betrayed not just by allowance disparity, but by his mother publicly explaining his financial situation without his permission. Posted longer Instagram caption March 30th morning. Reading, waking up to find my mother has shared my private financial details, including my personal income on social media to justify giving my half-brother 12x more allowance than me, is not how I expected today to start. Few things. 1. Yes, I earn my own money through hard work at endorsements, approximately 150-200K monthly from my own efforts, not family connections. Proud of that. 2. But that's irrelevant to question of what family chooses to give. If logic is, you earn your own, so you need less allowance, then you're punishing success at rewarding dependency. 3. Eman earned approximately 30-40 million last year from endorsements according to public reports, far more than my annual earnings, so argument that he needs P180K monthly while I only need P15K doesn't hold up to scrutiny. 4. Not about actual money, about what amounts symbolize regarding who family values more. Numbers speak louder than words about priorities. Post was remarkably detailed and analytical, showing Jimuel had clearly spent time processing his feelings at crafting response that addressed logical inconsistencies in mother's explanation. Particularly devastating was his point about Eman's substantial endorsement income making arg. You meant about need questionable. If Eman was earning P30-40 million annually from brands, then P180K monthly allowance, P.16 million yearly, was supplementary, not necessary for survival. Meanwhile, Jimuel earning 150-200K monthly, approximately 1.8-2.4 million yearly, was actually closer to Eman's allowance amount than to his own allowance, highlighting how arbitrary the disparity seemed. Post generated massive support for Jimuel with approximately 300,000 likes, at 50,000. Comments mostly sympathetic. He makes valid points. This isn't about jealousy but about fairness. Jinkee owes him private apology, not public justification. Family dynamics are destroyed by this kind of favoritism. Privately, according to sources close to family who spoke to entertainment journalists over following days, Jimuel's relationship with mother Jinkee deteriorated dramatically after her Facebook post, which he viewed as ultimate betrayal, revealing private financial information publicly to justify preferential treatment of half-brother was unforgivable from his perspective. Stopped responding to Jinkee's calls and messages, avoided family gatherings, maintained communication only with Father Manny at some siblings, pero essentially cut off direct relationship with mother for first time in his 24-year life. Devastating development for Jinkee, who, whatever her reasoning for allowance amounts, clearly loved Jimuel was hurt by his withdrawal. Meanwhile, Eman found himself in impossible position, caught between being grateful beneficiary of generous allowance and being blamed for causing family rift through his mere existence. At acceptance of that allowance, his public statement released March 31st through his own Instagram attempted to address situation. I'm deeply uncomfortable being center of family conflict regarding allowances. Want to clarify few things. 1. I didn't ask for P180K monthly allowance. Tita Jinkee offered this amount and I was integrated into family. I was grateful pero didn't request specific amount. 2. I wasn't aware Kuya Jimuel's allowance was significantly lower until this story broke. Had I known disparity would cause family problems, I would have discussed adjusting amounts. 3. I don't want to be reason for family disharmony. Willing to have open conversation about what's fair and appropriate. 4. My endorsement income is public information. Yes, I earned substantial amount last year. Grateful for opportunities. Pero allowance from family was never about financial need. pero about symbolic acceptance into family, which is why it meant so much to me regardless of amount. Post was diplomatic, attempting to diffuse situation without explicitly rejecting allowance which would insult Jinkee or appear ungrateful, pero also acknowledging Jimuel's valid grievances. Response, however, satisfied nobody. Critics argued he should voluntarily reduce allowance to match Jimuel's as gesture of good faith and solidarity. House supporters argued he had every right to accept what was offered, especially given 30 years of receiving nothing. Debate continued, generating hundreds of thousands of additional social media engagements over next week. Pero underlying damage to family relationships was severe and potentially permanent. By early April 2025, approximately 2 weeks after Allowance revelation story broke, Pacquiao family was experiencing most serious internal crisis. Since Eman's initial acknowledgement noong 2023, multiple fractures had developed. Jimuel barely speaking to mother Jinkee, maintaining only minimal necessary contact. Relationship between Jimuel and Eman was strained beyond previous tensions, now including financial resentment on top of existing identity issues. Princess and Queenie were caught in middle, trying to maintain relationships with both Jimuel, their full brother, and Eman, their half-brother, while also navigating their own complicated feelings about parental favoritism that allowance disparity revealed. Manny attempted to mediate, pero found himself in difficult position of defending wife's decisions while also recognizing valid hurt felt by eldest son. And all of this played out in public through social media posts, entertainment blog coverage, public commentary that made private healing early impossible. April 5, 2025. Manny Pacquiao himself finally addressed situation directly through rare Facebook Live video lasting approximately 20 minutes. Speaking from his home office, looking tired and frustrated. I want to talk directly to Filipino people about family situation that has become very public, about allowances for my sons Jimuel and Eman, about fairness and favoritism, about how we're trying to navigate complicated family dynamics. Opening that acknowledged situation had indeed become public. See, concern at that family felt obligated to address directly, rather than through publicists or carefully crafted statements. Manny continued with his characteristic imperfect English mixed with Tagalog. First, I want to say to Jimuel, Anak, I love you. You are my first son. You've been with me through my entire career from when you were baby. Nothing will change that. I understand you're hurt by allowance situation by how it became public. You have every right to feel that way. Your feelings are valid. Direct acknowledgement of Jimuel's pain that had been missing from previous family statements, showing Manny understood even if he'd been slow to respond. To Eman, you are also my son. I failed you for 30 years by not acknowledging you, not supporting you, letting you grow up without father. I can never fully make up for that. Pero I'm trying. Your integration into family has been complicated, pero you deserve to be here. Recognition of Eman's situation that had motivated allowance decision. Then Manny addressed allowance disparity directly. About amounts P180K for Eman versus P15K for Jimuel. This was decision made by Jinkee and me together, trying to balance different needs and circumstances. Jimuel is right that he earned substantial money from his own work, which we're proud of. Pero that doesn't mean we love him less or value him less. Maybe P15K was too low, making him feel unappreciated. We can adjust that. Eman's 180K was designed to help him establish himself after 30 years without support. Maybe amount was too high, creating resentment from siblings. We can adjust that too. Point is, no amount of money should come between family members. We're willing to make any changes necessary to restore family harmony. Acknowledgement that amounts were questionable at willingness to revise, suggesting family was taking crisis seriously, pero also revealing decision had been made without sufficient consideration of how disparities would affect family dynamics. Reactive scrambly, tongue to fix problem rather than proactive thoughtful allocation, Manny concluded with appeal. I'm asking Filipino people to give my family privacy as we work through this. I know everything we do is public because of who I am, pero my children especially deserve to have family matters resolved privately, without constant public commentary. We're human family with same problems as other families, just with more money and more media attention. Please pray for us, and allow us space to heal. Reasonable request, pero probably unrealistic. given that family themselves had made situation public through Jinkee's Facebook explanation at various members' social media posts. Having invited public into their financial affairs couldn't now easily close door on scrutiny. Public response to Manny's video was mixed. Some praised him for finally addressing situation directly at acknowledging both sons' perspectives. Others criticized what they perceived as equivocation at failure to take strong stance on what was fair. Comments included, "He should just make allowances equal for all children. Simplest solution. Manny seems like he wants to please everyone but ends up satisfying nobody. This is what happens when you have children from multiple relationships. Complications are inevitable." Cynical observation reflecting conservative attitudes about family structure still prevalent in Catholic Philippines. More significantly, response from Jimuel and Eman themselves to Manny's video was lukewarm at best. Jimuel posted brief Instagram story hours later stating, "Appreciate dad addressing situation publicly, pero conversations that matter happen privately, not on Facebook Live. Hope family can have actual dialogue without cameras," suggesting he felt video was more public relations exercise than genuine family communication. Eman similarly posted, "Grateful for dad's words, ready to have honest conversa." Tie-ins about path forward including discussing allowance adjustments if that helps family harmony, carefully diplomatic, but also noting that substantive discussions hadn't actually happened yet despite Manny's public intervention. April 10, 2025, Jinkee herself attempted another intervention through private family meetings she organized at Forbes Park Mansion. Attendance mandatory, she informed everyone through group chat. Manny, Jimuel, reluctantly, Eman, nervous, Princess Queenie, meeting held some main living room approximately 3 p.m. Atmosphere was tense from beginning with Jimuel arriving last approximately 15 minutes late. Perhaps deliberate power play showing his continuing resentment, sat far from Jinkee wrath. For the unusual seat beside her, body language closed off, arms crossed, Eman sat opposite side of room creating physical distance between the two half-brothers who were center of conflict. Jinkee opened meeting with apology. "I want to start by saying sorry to all of you, pero especially to Jimuel. I made mistakes in how I handled allowances, in how I explained decisions publicly. I see now that amounts I chose created perception of favoritism that is hurting our family, whatever my intentions. Impact is what matters. Impact has been negative." Acknowledgement that was important first step, pero came approximately 2 weeks after crisis began, during which damage had accumulated. She continued explaining thought process behind amounts. "When we acknowledged Eman in 2023, I struggled with how to help him financially. He'd missed 30 years of family support. I felt deep guilt about that. Even though I wasn't responsible for situation, I wanted to do something substantial to show he was truly accepted. 180K monthly felt like meaningful amount that would really make difference in his life. But I didn't think carefully enough about how that would look compared to what I give the other children. I was focused on Eman's needs without considering comparative context, revealing that decision had been emotionally driven rather than systematically thought through. Understandable given complicated feelings about husband's outside child, pero resulting in poorly considered policy. With Jimuel," she continued looking directly at him though he avoided eye contact, "I maintained lower allowance P15K because I knew you were earning well on your own. I thought you didn't need more from family since you're successfully independent, pero I see now that was wrong logic. Allowance isn't just about financial need. It's about symbolic value, about showing how much family appreciates you by giving you so much less than Eman. I sent message that you're less valued, which was never my intention, pero was effect. I'm sorry for that, anak." Direct apology that Jimuel received with slight nod pero no verbal response. Lingering hurt evident. Jinkee then proposed solution. "I'm suggesting we adjust allowances to be equal across all children at higher level, P50K monthly for each child regardless of age or circumstances. That way nobody feels favored or neglected. It's substantial enough to be meaningful, pero not so different between children as to create resentment. What do you think?" Proposal that attempted to resolve through equality, essentially tripling Jimuel's allowance while reducing Eman's to less than 1/3 of previous amount. compromise that required Eman to accept massive reduction which everyone in room recognized. Eman spoke first after uncomfortable silence. I appreciate Tita Jinkee's apology. It recognized this situation has hurt family. I'm fine with reducing my allowance to P50K monthly to match everyone else. Never wanted to be cause of family conflict if financial equality helps restore harmony. I support that. Only request is that reduction happen gradually over few months rather than immediately, so I can adjust my budget accordingly, since I've been planning based on P180K for past year. Reasonably. Response showing willingness to sacrifice for family peace, while also practical about transition period. All eyes turned to Jimuel for his response. Silence stretched approximately 30 seconds before he spoke. I appreciate Mom's apology, pero I have to be honest. Changing allowance amounts doesn't fix underlying problem, which is pattern of favoritism that this revealed. For 30 years I've been dutiful son, present at every family event, supportive of Dad's career, never caused scandal or embarrassment, did everything expected of me. Meanwhile, Eman, who I don't blame for circumstances of his earth but objectively wasn't part of family for 3 decades, shows up at within 2 years is receiving 12x what I get. That spoke volumes about where I rank in family priorities. Making allowances equal now doesn't erase that message or rebuild trust that was damaged. Response that rejected simple financial fix, suggesting deeper emotional wounds required more than monetary adjustment to heal. Following Jimuel's rejection of simple financial solution proposed by Jinkee during April 10th family meeting, atmosphere in Forbes Park Mansion living room became even more tense as family members grappled with realization that allowance disparity had revealed and perhaps accelerated deeper rifts that couldn't be easily repaired through adjusting numbers in ledger. Princess, who had remained silent during earlier portions of meeting, finally spoke. Kuya Jimuel, I understand you're hurt, pero what exactly would satisfy you? Mom apologized, offered to make allowances equal. Eman agreed to massive reduction in his amount. What more can be done? Question that was fair, pero also carried undertone of frustration, suggesting she felt Jimuel was being unreasonably stubborn in refusing to accept olive branches offered. Jimuel responded sharply, What would satisfy me? Honestly, hindi ko sure there is solution at this point. Damage is done. Everyone, including millions of Filipinos on social media, now knows exactly how much family values me versus how much family values Eman. P15K versus 180K isn't subtle. That's not even close. That statement, at Mom's explanation, I didn't need more because I earn my own money, just made it worse because it's basically punishing me for being successful at independent. Should I have failed at establishing career so I'd be more deserving of family support? What kind of logic is that? Points that struck at heart of problem. That Jinkee's need-based rationale for disparity actually discouraged exactly the kind of independence at success that parents theoretically want children to achieve. Manny interjected, attempting to mediate. Jimuel, anak, your mother and I both acknowledge this was handled poorly. We're trying to make it right. Pero you need to meet us halfway. We can't change past, pero can change future. If you want allowance increased to 50K, matching everyone else, we'll do that immediately. If you want more, we can discuss what's appropriate. If you want different form of support, we can consider that. Pero continuing to reject every proposed solution while maintaining anger doesn't move us forward, essentially arguing that Jimuel needed to be willing to accept imperfect resolution rather than demanding impossible restoration of pre-crisis family dynamics. Jimuel stood up from seat. You know what, maybe I need more time before I can move forward. This meeting was too soon after everything became public. I'm still processing. I'll let you know when I'm ready to discuss solutions. For now, I need space. Began walking toward door, intending to leave. Pero Jinkee called out, Anak, please don't go. We need to resolve this as family. Walking away won't help. But Jimuel continued, Actually, Mom, walking away is exactly what I need right now. Staying at sea. Continuing to discuss something I'm not ready to resolve will just make things worse. I'll be in touch. Left house, leaving remaining family members in uncomfortable silence, feeling meeting had failed to achieve reconciliation it was designed to accomplish. After Jimuel's departure, remaining family members continued discussion without him trying to salvage something from meeting. Eman expressed guilt. I feel like this is my fault. If I'd just declined the P180K initially, or asked what other children received to ensure fairness, we wouldn't be in this situation. Pero Manny reassured him. Hindi mo kasalanan. Adults here made decisions. You were just accepting what was offered. Don't blame yourself for family dynamics you didn't create. Attempting to absolve Eman of responsibility, though realistically his acceptance of disproportionate allowance without questioning it did contribute to problem, even if understandable given his background of decades without support. Princess suggested, maybe instead of focusing on monthly allowances which clearly have symbolic weight that's hard to navigate, we should think about other forms of support that don't invite direct comparison, like maybe set up trust funds for each child, with equal amounts that they can't access until certain age, or provide specific support for particular goals like education, business ventures, home purchases. That way family is helping everyone substantially, pero not through regular monthly allowances that invite constant comparison at resentment. Thoughtful alternative approach that recognized root problem was transparency at comparability of regular allowances rather than family support in principle. Queenie added her perspective. I've stayed quiet about this, pero honestly I think part of problem is we're discussing this at all. In many wealthy families, parents support adult children substantially. Pero exact amounts aren't disclosed even between siblings. Everyone knows family helps everyone. Pero specific numbers stay private, avoiding direct comparisons. Maybe going forward we should implement that policy. Everyone gets appropriate support based on individual circumstances. Pero we don't discuss exact amounts with each other. Policy that would prevent future direct comparisons, pero probably came too late, given that specific disparity had already been revealed publicly. Jinkee listened to daughter's suggestions, acknowledged both had merit, agreed to think about implementing trust funds plus privacy policy going forward, pero recognized immediate problem remained Jimuel's alienation, which wouldn't be resolved by changing future policy without addressing past hurt. Meeting concluded approximately 5 p.m. without clear resolution, family members departing with shared sense that situation remained unresolved, at potentially unresolvable at least in near term. Ring time at possibly professional family counseling, to work through accumulated resentments that allowance disparity had revealed, pero not created. These tensions had existed beneath surface for 2 years, since Eman's acknowledgement. Just needed catalyst to explode into open conflict. Over following week, mid-April 2025, various family members attempted individual outreach to Jimuel, hoping private conversations might be more successful than group meeting had been. Princess visited him at his BGC condo April 12th, found him still angry pero slightly more willing to talk without parents present. I understand you're hurt, Kuya, she told him. Pero completely cutting off family isn't solution. We grew up together. We've always been close. Don't let this situation destroy all those relationships, Jimuel responded. I'm not cutting off everyone. I'm maintaining distance from from Eman specifically. You at Queenie are fine. Dad is fine. Even though I think he should have intervened earlier. Pero Mom made choice to give Eman 12x what she gives me. And then publicly justify it by saying, I don't need more. That hurt, Princess. Really hurt. Eman accepted that massive disparity without question, which shows either he's completely oblivious to family dynamics, which I doubt, or he knew it was unfair pero took it anyway, porque mas maganda para sa kanya. Revealing that anger was directed primarily at Jinkee but also at Eman for accepting unfair advantage. Princess tried to offer Eman's perspective. Kuya, think about it from his position. He spent 30 years without father acknowledgement, without family support, watching from outside as we lived in luxury while he struggled. When finally acknowledged at offered 180K monthly, of course he accepted. Would you have rejected it in his position, knowing you'd received nothing for decades? I think he genuinely didn't realize how it would look compared to what you receive. You need to give him benefit of doubt, attempt to create empathy for Eman's perspective, but Jimuel wasn't fully convinced. Maybe you're right that he didn't realize initially, pero once he found out, and he must have found out at some point during past year, he should have brought it up, should have said, hey, this seems unfair to siblings. Maybe we should adjust. Fact that he didn't suggest that makes me think he was fine with unfair advantage. Queenie visited separately April 14th, took different approach focusing less on defending Eman and more on practical impact of continued estrangement. Kuya, I understand you're hurt, pero think about bigger picture. Family gatherings are miserable now with you absent. Mom is depressed about situation crying frequently. Princess and I are caught in middle feeling like we have to choose sides. Younger siblings Michael and Mary are confused about why family is fighting. Gee, this is affecting everyone, not just you at Mom. At some point you need to decide whether maintaining anger is worth this level of family disruption. Pragmatic argument about collateral damage that Jimuel's withdrawal was causing. Pero he pushed back. So I should just swallow my hurt and pretend everything is fine para maintain surface harmony? That's what Filipino families do. Sweep problems under rug. Maintain appearance of unity while resentments fester. I'm done with that. This hurt is real. It needs to be acknowledged, not just covered up. Manny's approach, when he visited April 16th, was more direct. Anak, I love you, pero I need you to be honest. Is this really about allowance amounts or is this about something deeper? Because if truly just about money, we can fix that easily. If about feeling like Eman is replacing you in family, that's different problem requiring different solution. Cutting to potential core issue that Jimuel had been dancing around. Confrontation that made Jimuel defensive initially, pero then he admitted, fine. Maybe you're right that money is just symptom. Real issue is feeling like I'm being pushed aside for someone who has more compelling story. Eman is better narrative. Rejected son fee. Nally acknowledged underdog who succeeded despite abandonment. Everyone loves redemption story compared to that I'm boring, privileged son who had everything. People don't root for me. I see it in how media covers us. How public comments on social media. Eman is sympathetic figure. I'm spoiled rich kid. At allowance disparity just confirmed that family sees us same way. Hitting on painful truth that public narrative absolutely favored Eman, creating pressure on family to treat him specially to conform to redemption arc expectations. Manny acknowledged, you're right that public loves Eman's story that creates pressure. Pero family shouldn't be making decisions based on what public thinks. We should be treating all children fairly, regardless of outside narratives. And clearly we failed at that. Pero anak, you need to understand, Eman didn't create that narrative deliberately to hurt you. He's just living his reality. And actually he's also struggling with that narrative because it reduces him to symbol, rather than treating high. Eman's full person. You both have legitimate grievances about how you're perceived and treated. You're not enemies even though situation has made you adversaries. Attempting to create common ground between half-brothers, suggesting both were victims of circumstances rather than one victimizing other. Argument that had logical merit, pero required Jimuel to extend empathy he wasn't yet ready to give. By late April 2025, approximately 1 month after Allowance story had broken, situation remained essentially unchanged. Jimuel maintained physical separation living at BGC condo, minimal contact with Jinkee, though slightly increased communication with Manny at siblings. Eman continued receiving P180K monthly allowance since proposed reduction hadn't been formally implemented, requiring legal paperwork. Jimuel hadn't agreed to revised P50K equal distribution plan anyway. So momentum for change, stalled. Family gatherings continued happening pero were smaller, more subdued without Jimuel present. Public interest in story had waned somewhat as news cycle moved on, pero situation remained unresolved, wounded center of family dynamics. At this point, it was clear that resolution, if it came at all, would require months or possibly years of gradual healing, rather than quick fix. Allowance disparity had revealed that accelerated deeper tensions about identity, favoritism, family loyalty that existed beneath surface of what appeared to be functional wealthy family. Numbers 180K versus P15K would be remembered as trigger. Pero real story was about complicated human relationships, about legitimate children's insecurity when parents outside child enters family, about late acknowledged children's struggle to belong while navigating resentment, about parents' impossible task of balancing justice toward child. They failed for decades against maintaining relationships with children they realm, said. Problems without clear right answers or easy solutions, requiring ultimately patience, empathy, willingness to forgive imperfect decisions made by imperfect people trying to navigate unprecedented personal circumstances. Whether Pacquiao family would achieve that healing remained to be seen as story continued to unfold beyond public view.